All right, welcome back to the PagerDuty and PD community streams. My name is Mandy Walls. I'm a developer advocate here at PagerDuty, and I am joined by Mel and Nick from Buildkite, and they're going to be showing us all about their stuff tonight. So welcome everybody out there. Thanks for joining us. Mel, you want to tell us just a little bit about yourself and what you do for Buildkite?
Yeah, I'm a developer advocate at Buildkite. I've been at Buildkite for about 4 months now. Prior to that, I was a software engineer and also a user of Buildkite. So here I am. I'm here making friends with our community and telling amazing stories about the way people use Buildkite.
Excellent. And Nick is an old colleague of mine. Nick, what are you doing now at Buildkite?
Yeah, good to see you again, Mandy. At Buildkite these days, I'm a technical product marketing manager. I get to make cool demo stuff, write blog posts, tweet at folk, all kinds of fun stuff.
And now you get to be on here with us tonight.
So now I get to be here with y'all. Yeah.
Fantastic. Awesome. So we're going to start out with a little bit of an overview of change events for folks. For the folks who are using PagerDuty out there, you may not have seen these yet. And we'll get you a summit link from last year's presentations, I think, at the end here. But so what we've added to PagerDuty, if you haven't seen it, is the ability to track the kinds of additional changes that you're making into your infrastructure as part of the information that you're putting into PagerDuty. So I'm just going to do a couple of slides and then I'm going to turn it over to Nick and Mel so that you kind of get an idea of just where we are, and we'll just level set, and then they'll go into what they've got with their stuff. So for our change events, we know that a lot of disruption is caused by change. Now, I will confess that this number that's here, 80%, I think it comes from the Visible Ops Guide, which shout out to Gene Kim and those guys, but it was published in 2006. So it's a number that's been around a while. So whether we figure we've got a lot more changes and the tooling is better, maybe we've still balanced out to about 80%, but a lot of unplanned incidents definitely are caused by change. So the recent changes that are made are the things that you want to find out, like what happened, what went on, and getting a view of your recent changes helps you accelerate your triage when you've got something going on, when there's an alert, when there's an incident, knowing what has changed. You don't really have the ability right now with everyone working from home to stand up in the cubicle farm and yell, who changed what? Who touched X, Y, or Z? So getting that change event information from any tool that you're using is super helpful. So we're now, you don't want to be asking in every channel, did you change this? Did you change that? Did you push a thing? We want that information to come to us directly without us going to look for it. So when you're looking for changes in your PagerDuty account, we're going to see some of this with the Buildkite demo. It's under your incidents. These are non-alerting data. They're going to be things that are attached to your service, right? And it's going to just give you information about what's been going on with that service. So they show up under incidents. You can see there the little purple tag says recent changes. That's where you're going to find all of these things that we're going to be looking at tonight. So if you have your account open, you want to follow along with what that looks like, that's awesome. When you get into having a list of all these changes from different sources, they're going to show up in a list under that recent changes page, and you'll have the most recent ones on top. And for the default view is going to give you the last 24 hours. So if you're expecting to see one in there and you don't see it, maybe it was yesterday, maybe it's sort of fallen out of the page, you can make that last change filter a little bit wider so you can see those. But it'll give you a place where things might be coming in from your infrastructure, things might be coming in from your CI/CD tools, things might be coming in from something else that your engineers are making changes to, but you get the chance to capture them all here in this one central repository and keep them going and keep them linked up to your services. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. They're helping you create a shared awareness for all of your changes, find those potential breaking changes, maybe that 80%, and take action immediately. So we'll put some links in the chat, and you'll be able to get started there if you're not using them yet. So now I'm going to turn it over here to Nick and Mel, and we'll take a look at what they've got to show us.
Cool. Well, as we all know, we're probably familiar with the incident that'll show up at the time that you're not expecting. Like I'm walking the dog for a moment, even though I'm on call, but like you've got to live, right? So for me, like the value of this integration is like when you're least expecting things and you want all that information at hand. And because Buildkite has information about deploys, why wouldn't you have that stuff alongside your incidents? So that's kind of where we come in. Let me just share my screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
And there's our incident. Not much information, and I'll just acknowledge that. But like to wire up the did I acknowledge that okay? Yes, it's been acknowledged. All right. So jumping over to like our pipeline config here, we can add our change event, which is a notify step, which I think, let me look at the docs because YAML is really, I don't have my key yet. But anyway, let me just set this up. That's what it looks like. And we will add the key once I've actually done that.
Can we make that text a little bit bigger?
I think so. Yes.
Oh, there we go. That's good. Yeah.
Ah, super. Cool. Hang on. So that's where our key will go. Anyway, so that's our pipeline config. Let's go over to PagerDuty and let's set up the integration. So you can go to the integrations tab and find the one we're looking for, which is Buildkite. Or is it Buildkite Dev? No, it's Buildkite.
Buildkite. I think Buildkite Dev was an earlier iteration. I'll have to check in on that.
Oh, okay. We don't want to confuse folks. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So there's that. Now we have an integration, and we should have a key, which I'm not sure. Do I just click here?
Oh, yeah. It looks, drop it down. Yep.
It looks different than the last time I looked at this. Some work's been happening. All right. So we grab the key. Yeah. Continual improvement, right?
Yes.
So there's our key. There's our key. Now, obviously, you don't have to paste a key in the config. You can use whatever secret management like system that you normally use, whether that's HashiCorp Vault or KMS key storage service. And now we will just push this. What have I done? Live demos. All right. Add change events. All right. I probably would say something different if I was actually thinking about this. We're sending PagerDuty our change events now. So if we go, Nick, do you want to do the Buildkite, talk through the pipeline stuff?
Certainly. And actually, can I steal the screen share from you real quick?
Absolutely.
Oh, do I have to unshare?
Nope.
I think Mandy just does
fancy.
magic.
There we go. That. We got the magic.
Fancy.
I like this fancy pants StreamYard business.
Yeah.
So I've got a few pipelines that I've set up here. And one of the key things to note about building CI or CD pipelines with Buildkite is that it follows something of a hybrid model where the pipelines themselves are visible within a SaaS platform that we manage. However, the builds themselves are being performed on agents that run on your infrastructure. Here, I'm actually running my agents in Amazon Web Services using a tool called the Elastic CI Stack, which will use some fun API calls to our SaaS suite to determine whether or not it needs to auto scale up or down more agents. But this could even be something as simple as agents running locally on a dev environment or in a Docker container. So there are a lot of different ways to go. And you pretty much just figure out which flavor is valid to you. And you can set up a new agent lickety split. In my case, I've been building a few different sort of example scripts. As we're getting changes put into our new alert, we can kind of see like our TV chefs, some stuff that's been baking for a bit. So when it grabs events out of Buildkite, it will also put in some information about the status. So I can see here whether a build passed or failed, as well as some understanding of what the previous change did. So we have still failing here, as well as fixed when it goes from failed to passed. What's particularly nice here, and sort of like, to kind of what Mandy was calling out in the beginning, is that we have the ability to sort of correlate those changes to particular incidents. So if we look, for example, at, what are the incidents that I had created earlier today, you can actually see here, it will show me all of the changes that happened around the time of the incident. So when this incident was opened, I can see there was a PR merge and a few failing builds about 15 minutes before that incident got created. So that might be a good place for me to look and see, yeah, no, someone made a mistake trying feverishly to fix it here. That scans. And that is more or less it. When we sort of send those events, you can sort of see how they're formatted. We send some custom event details to the PagerDuty API via a pretty straightforward JSON object with things like the state of our build and when it was run.
Exactly. And then you can see who was responsible for that particular breaking deploy potentially. And then just loop them into the incident if they're not already in there to like hop in and help resolve the issue. So it's like really handy, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, just generally speaking, whenever I've had an incident without this type of information, I have multiple things open. I'm going to GitHub to look at the most recent deploys. Then I'm looking at the build maybe, and then I've got Slack open and I'm talking to people in there, looping them in that way. Whereas why don't you just bring it all into the one spot? You don't want all these things going on, really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting too. I had, when I put out the tweet that I was going to be joining y'all here, a couple of friends that have absolutely nothing to do with my tech life said, those all sound like words. I'm sure you'll have fun. So I'm like, all right, how do I describe it? I'm like, well, there's this app that people can use to wake them up when things are busted. And we're showing off a thing that will help you figure out what went wrong quicker so you can go back to sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. They like to go back to sleep part. So
yes.
I don't know.
Resume living.
Back to walking the dog, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And as for sort of setting things up as well, when you go into any of the services in your service directory, which, there we go, you'll actually see in the integration itself. So if I go into my integrations here, we can see the Buildkite one I have already set up. And we can go directly to the documentation so that you can see the step-by-step for everything Mel just did in her setup there.
Yeah, that's super handy. Like the thing with some of the integrations on PagerDuty is just kind of like knowing where they get integrated. So some stuff is integrated at the account level, and then there's things like this where you want that information at the service level so that it actually ties back to the impacted service when you've got a change.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm curious about the GitHub integration though, Nick.
Yeah, and actually that was
looking at that.
something I added this morning just so there'd be a little bit more flavor in here. But it's another kind of good call out, where one of the things that was particularly noteworthy there. So for example, this one is only firing off when a PR is merged. So that because I'm also triggering a bill every time I do a push or a commit, that was sort of a decision to keep things from being overly noisy or doing duplicate notifications. And indeed, sort of the same way as with ours, when you set up the GitHub integration, it provides you with sort of the guidance as far as what sorts of events to or to not add to your webhook to make sure that it's actually giving you good insight and not just adding noise to your alerts.
Looking at that with the PR merge and then the chain of events that follow, it's a pretty good timeline. Like it's actually like this is the initial thing that kicked off all those build the build notifications as well. It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
I like what you did there.
Why, thanks. Yeah, and as with anything, these can be set up sort of per service. So you can kind of play around with, play logo bingo and see how many things you can connect to this thing. And then sort of, that's the thing I always love about integrations like this, is that once you turn it on, the next thing just becomes, wait, all right, an incident happens. Let's see what insight I have today that I didn't have yesterday.
Exactly. Is it working? Is it too much noise? Is it like it's constantly just playing Lego, really, isn't it?
Yeah. And I'm sure, as I play around with this more, I think the next sort of things that I want to fiddle with is that you can get pretty fancy as far as, creating rules for events, what happens when you get a particular event of a particular kind, and what sort of kind of conditional behavior you'd like an event to have.
That's worth calling out too. In the Buildkite pipeline config, you can pass through a flag that... you can pass through there's a bunch of different flags there that you can pass through. Like, you may only be interested in failed deploys, for example, rather than passing builds, because that might be a bit noisy. Like, say you're building or deploying 200 times a day, you may not want all the past ones in there because they're not really an issue, but
sure,
all those kinds of things. So it's quite tailorable. Is that even a word? I don't think it is.
I'm close enough.
Configurable is the word that I wanted.
There we go.
Boom. Yeah. And actually, what I figured I'd throw up the docs as well. There's an example here, the example Mel mentioned, where we could say, only send, well, in this case, past events, or, the opposite if you wanted. There are a bunch of configurable conditionals within the Buildkite pipeline syntax. So pretty much all of the metadata that Buildkite knows about your project ends up becoming something that you could potentially work into your notification. If you wanted builds on a particular branch or from a particular team or set of authors to be coming into a particular service, those kinds of granular conditions are things that you can set on the Buildkite side, or then alternatively on the PagerDuty side, if you just want to get the whole kit and caboodle and then have PagerDuty do some post-processing.
Right.
It's got sort of a conditional engine as well.
Cool.
Lots of ways to slice and dice.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Right on. And I can go ahead and pass the baton back to you, Mel, if we want to check back in on our awesome app.
All right. There you go.
What did I do? I actually pushed past the block step. So, we ran our specs. Everything was good. And we deployed the change events. So they should actually be in our... let's see, are they in our incident? Which activity? There we go. We have some. We don't have a failed build in there though. And I wanted to, again, we see all the info. We see that I pushed a thing. Maybe it was my fault that I balked the deploy. So imagine that I just did something, and then we can click into our incident, and then we could add a responder here. That's what I was saying before, which would be cool. You can just, how do I add a responder? You know how to do that, but users, Nick. There we go. All right. And then we've got our responders in there. Page. Oh, no, it was this one. Was it? Too many dummy accounts. I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. It's behind the curtain.
Your account looks like mine. They're all called test and demo.
Oh, damn. I can't find it. Anyway, cool. But yes.
All right.
So again, here's our pipeline. We had some fancy scaling of agents that meant this ran like lightning. We've got some parallel build steps. I don't know. What else can I talk about, Nick?
That's the other. Yeah, that's we blew through that, but like being able to run agents locally means that we can parallelize to our heart's content. So that's actually an interesting thing you see here, where we have a multi-step test in Mel's pipeline there. It can go ahead and break that down into its assorted components. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. In real life, this is a godsend when you've got like a test suite that runs for 40 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And you can like you split your unit tests and run them in like across separate agents, and it's like lightning fast. Like some of our customers have taken builds down from 40 minutes down to like less than 10 by just doing parallelization of the spec runs. This is obviously fake. I'm just echoing out.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's like, especially those suites that have like, a couple hundred spec tests, then like you spend as much time setting up the environment as you do running a test.
Yes.
Yeah. And same with the agent scaling. I mean, like we're doing this locally, but obviously you can auto scale in AWS, GPS. I mean, GPS. GC. That's a different thing.
Good. There's enough 3-letter acronyms in our normal marketing world. Like once you start putting the cloud providers into it.
No, there's no hope. It's just no way.
Yeah.
But I had a thing. It'll come back, I'm sure. The something parallelization.
So is that done natively, or is that something you want to configure your test to actually do to like pick which ones have to go where or anything like that?
It's something that will happen pretty natively. It will generally parallelize things by default unless you like have hard breaks on things. You can set parallelism specifically if you want to, control how far a particular job goes. You can target specific queues if you want to break things up that way. You can also on the agent side, if you have sort of multi-threaded support wherever you're running your agent, which most modern systems will, you can even parallelize on a single host. So in this case, 5 of those 6 agents I think are just running on my laptop with a concurrency of 5 set up. Whereas something
and
like
one of them is on my machine, which just like we've got a multi-machine like non-cloud environment.
Global reach, yes.
Oh my god, it is too. A data center in like Australia and a data center in Seattle.
Well, and even in my piddly little show you how I broke a thing use cases, I actually ran into that out of necessity and not just to look fancy, where I was trying to get a spec thing working and I had a bunch of spec tests that were literally assert 1 = 1. They're not doing anything fancy, but there were enough of them that I'm like, I can't wait another 5 minutes for this build to go. It's not even doing anything. So boom. And I was just popping
5 minutes.
Oh, I could just
Who's got 5 minutes?
Big done.
Nice.
Awesome. That's super helpful. All right. Well, we have a few questions we can talk about, some things about Buildkite and PagerDuty. So we've kind of I can.
Oh, my screen.
There you go. Oh, you're good. No worries. So we've talked a bit about the sort of the general benefits of integrating PagerDuty and Buildkite. Is there anything else that we've missed there, or we kind of covered? Having all those it's
a pretty simple integration, really. I think that's why it's such a no-brainer for me. It's it's so easy to set up and the benefits are so mammoth that it's why not? And then, you can always tweak it and filter out things. So even if there's too much information. So there's not a lot more to talk about, really. You can configure it once it's set up, but just do that. Do it.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Cool. Well, let's talk a bit about Buildkite in general then. So like when we're looking at Buildkite, like what kinds of things draw people into Buildkite as a solution? What do you offer folks that is more interesting or different from other solutions there?
I'm always asking that question actually when I talk to people, because usually, because I'm new, I'm just like, so tell me about how you found Buildkite. And I'm expecting some like sort of meaty, like, I don't know, some criticisms and like, what do we not do? But it's like, when they've done like a comparison across like the CI/CD tool market, they're like, it was a kind of no-brainer for us. And then there's other things that make it easy to start working with Buildkite, like the AWS, the Elastic Stack. You know, you can easily, it's like, they're like, you just push a button and you have like the Elastic, you know, you have AWS infrastructure working with Buildkite. So that's pretty epic. I think also just the community of plugins that we have as well is like, someone said it was like playing with Lego. It's like, and everything is just a script, a bash script or whatever script. You can use Python, I think. Can you use other? It's not just bash.
PowerShell and Batch both work on the Windows side of things. I haven't tried it with any other shells, but now I kind of want to.
I mean, yeah, I know. But yeah, it's like just all plug and play. It's like, it's very highly configurable, and it's kind of like the limits aren't really there. Like there aren't limitations like you get with other tools. I don't know, Nick, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think that's kind of spot on. Like I had, the advantage, the company Mandy and I worked at previously, Chef, was a Buildkite user. And I didn't find out until I left Chef that our engineers had like written this entire long, like open source of like, here's why we picked Buildkite in the jobs it does well. But I actually, because I spent a lot of time doing presentations around cloud providers and the shared responsibility model in particular, it's something that I think fits into our world really well. And so if anyone sort of watching is not familiar with that term specifically, it's kind of the divide between what you and your vendor are responsible for whenever you're doing something in the cloud, serverless, SaaS, what have you. And most importantly, where your responsibilities overlap. So if you kind of take a look at either extreme, you can go ahead and run everything inside of your own data center. And then you're also managing your sort of CI system as well as whatever those build environments are, versus going fully SaaS, where you might run into security issues and you might run into environments that are mostly like prod, but aren't going to be exactly there. So Buildkite tries to aim to get the best of both worlds, where the control plane is something that we manage and you don't have to go install a Buildkite server to get up and running. But you're still able to like perform the work of building your apps and deploying your apps inside of your environments, which has both security benefits. It makes it a lot easier for me to tell my CISO, like, I don't need to open up any inbound ports on the firewall and my code never needs to leave my servers. But on the flip side of the coin, I also get parity, where I can make it look as much like prod as I want to because it's my data center.
Yeah. No, it makes total sense. Like that ability to keep everything internal when you need to, and then, have that flexibility to burst or whatever else to configure. That's super helpful.
Well, it was funny too. I was like looking at like one of the last, webinars that I had done in a previous role. And part of the highlight was that I had used our kit at Chef to set up my CI server, which I had no idea how to do, and was able to automate that task and not have to learn it. Where like, by contrast, like I didn't end up making too many demos in Buildkite at the time because it was like, oh, it just does the thing I asked it to do.
Yeah. That's how a lot of people like internally in their SRE teams work with Buildkite, and how they roll it out to developers is that they automate setting up of CI pipelines with new services, so that it's really for a web developer or an application developer. It's like the click of the button thing. Like the SREs team, DevOps team have done all that work in like the secret management and all the hooking up the hooks to GitHub and all those things. But the developers just like, new service, new pipeline, please. And it's all just like done, right? But it's quite granular as well. It doesn't have to be, I don't know, like other CI/CD systems that's just the mono repo style. Like you have one install of the CI/CD tool and you're locked in for every other downstream service that may want to use it in a different way. Those limitations are a little trickier to manage, I think. But yeah. Anyway.
Awesome.
User stories. Yeah.
Yeah. Like speaking of user stories, like are there things that like unusual things that people use Buildkite for? Other than whatever Nick does. So.
That's a really good question. I'm trying to think of anything particularly unusual. The one thing that like I have found to be kind of a through line of folks, or like speaking back to the shared responsibility model, I'm quite fond of. We have a tool called the Elastic CI Stack. And really all it is a CloudFormation template for use with Amazon Web Services. But it helps, I think, kind of bridge the gap of, even with a hybrid solution, the elephant in the room is I've got to deploy my agent, and that's still infrastructure I have to manage. Yes. So with something like the Elastic Stack, we're able to provide some prescriptive guidance on the things that are likely to be bugbears for folks, particularly folks that haven't had to manage environments like this. So making sure your S3 bucket is private, or, making sure that you're looking for secrets in the, organization blessed secret store, and all of the things that can potentially bite you when you're going full hog into that cloud world. And just being able to have that reference architecture has been certainly helpful for me learning the tool, but something I've found in a lot of like customer deployments, just like I didn't have to write the API call to figure out when I need a new agent, is something hard to overstate the value of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sweet.
That's right.
So for something like Buildkite, like what kind of things can people do to get started? Like you just sign in and make an account, or what do they need to do there to get going?
Yeah, so yes, that is all you need to do. I'm typing in the background to see if we've launched new things that I'm allowed to talk about yet or not.
Ooh, new things.
But
do you mean the money, the page
with the one.
3 columns? Yes, it's there. It's there.
Hey,
go to pricing.
So yeah.
You want me to add that to the stream? You want to show that off?
Yeah, share it.
There is.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So there is sort of a free tier for sort of open source projects for learning the tool and sort of kind of getting up and running. And then sort of as you sort of upgrade your plan, you end up getting added support, added sort of like single sign-on features and team permissions, and it ends up sort of scaling with use. So it's a per user per month fee for the paid tiers. And sort of in any of these cases, essentially the workflow is exactly the same. You'll be able to log in from to the dashboard as soon as you create a free account. And I will usually recommend folks check out, we have a getting started guide. And literally the very first thing you can do is what we saw in the background there, which was getting a bash script that's going to go ahead and run a test build. And we actually didn't look at what my build was doing, but shows off some of the fancy little niceties that, make our fans love us. There is absolutely support for doing GIFs and emojis inside your
number one requested feature right there.
Absolutely. I can confirm there are the fancy pants ANSI escape codes to do some fancy pants delight in there.
Buildkite and emojis. There's an emoji repo actually.
There absolutely is.
That is epic. So yeah, that's good.
Oh wow.
Because like most people will put emojis in their steps, like so you can see the little hammer in the example script. But we've also got emoji support for like all the tools like Terraform or whatever. So
that's super helpful just to give people that visual clue of what's going on.
Yeah.
And for a lot of them too, so like I had mentioned sort of my like doing parallel examples when I was playing around with, say, something with Rails. And again, so this, I was just in an example repo of ours that I was able to like clone and throw up. And it's got a bunch of sort of, in this case, parallel RSpec things that are happening. So these can be really useful as well for solving the blank canvas problem. Where the heck do I get started? We've got a lot of sort of skeleton code you can take and run and then sort of iterate on.
Yeah. And it's probably worth calling out. I think there's a link in our footer. There's a community Slack as well that you can join, which is great because there's a lot of people who probably dealt with the same things that you're doing.
Indeed.
When you're starting out. That will be able to help you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a link to that. Let me find that and we can give it to folks.
Probably something I should have done.
Chat.buildkite.community will get you there.
There you go.
And it is on the footer of buildkite.com. And if you're like me and you work on the marketing page but are still logged into the dashboard, /home will get you to the marketing page. That I don't know why you would need to if you're not me who works in the marketing team, but fun fact.
Everyone loves the marketing team.
There's also a plugins page as well. That's worth like calling out, which has a bunch of like, I guess, Buildkite supported plugins, and then also links to like community plugins, because a lot of people obviously open source their plugins once they've created them. There's a lot.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And you can always see sort of from the kind of logo here who the maintainer of a particular plugin here is. And so you can see the ones that are sitting in the Buildkite plugins repo that we've put out there, as well as various sort of community and partner plugins that are out in the wild.
Excellent. I see some familiar logos in there as we're scrolling through.
Indeedy.
So definitely helpful folks there.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. If we have any other questions from the folks watching, if you want to put them in the chat, we're here for another few minutes. Let's see if I've got any more questions we'd like to ask there. Yeah, you got the last one that was there. That was their community mailing list Slack team. So we'll find everybody on Slack. So you're not really in Slack unless your entire side of your screen is completely filled with Slack.
No.
Just how that needs to go.
I know.
Yeah. My Slack and my Discord are now in active competition to see who has the busier sidebar.
Yeah, my Discord is mostly for Pokemon Go. So that one's definitely winning right now.
That's the leisure. Yeah, that's the leisure side of things.
Yeah. No, Slack is for work. Discord's more for play right now. So
that's how it used to be. And then a bunch of DevOps days went over to Discord. And it's all...
I know.
Don't merge my two worlds.
Yeah, it's like, no, dude, don't cross the streams. Come on. It's not good, but okay. Well, that was great. No, that's super helpful for folks to see, how all this stuff hooks together and all the tools that you're using out there and how they can talk to each other to help you like manage all the information that's coming at you all the time. There's just so much going on, and your workflows continue to get more and more complex, and you need more things to keep track of, and we'll just dump them into PagerDuty and that'll take care of it all for you. So anything else you'd like to say to the people out there before we sign off for tonight? Or this morning for Mel on the other side of the world?
Oh my gosh, I need more coffee. Besides that, say hello to us on Twitter. Follow us. Buildkite on Twitter.
Yeah. And on our blog, I think buildkite.com/blog, there is a post, I think, from today or yesterday.
There is hot off the press.
Indeed.
Yes.
Going over the PagerDuty integration and with a link to the video that my good friend Mel did back at, was it PagerDuty Summit?
Yes.
It was for the PagerDuty Summit. Yes.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, and I put the YouTube link in the chat there for folks too, so they can, if they need to rewind and rewatch and take notes, and it'll be a test. So
you can't fail it. It's just put the key in.
Just put the key in. It's like a door.
And then set up the integration in PagerDuty. That is it. I tell you, it takes 5 minutes.
Yep.
So easy. You can all do it out there.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys so much for being on our stream. It's super fun.
Thanks for having us.
It's so great to have folks we know come back and visit us and hang out. So for folks out there, make sure you follow the stream. You can always watch this on demand. Once we get it finished and downloaded, we'll be over on YouTube as well. And check us out over there. So in the meantime, check out Buildkite, buildkite.com, and join their Slack community. You can join the PagerDuty community at community.pagerduty.com. And we'd love to hear more about what you're doing with Buildkite and PagerDuty together, how you use them, how it's helping you out with your incident management and dealing with all the changes that are coming in and all that great stuff. So let us know what you're doing out there. So it's been great. So
Cool.
All right. So that's all for us. Thanks, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you again in a couple of weeks. We'll have, I think, influx data and log DNA are next up for our streams, and that'll be fun, too. So come on back. So thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Take care.